So let's talk about section 7.4, which is going to be production in the long run. So remember the long run where we have all factors are variable. So we are still going to be talking about the production function, where basically we have labor and capital and how much stuff can we make. But now, instead of having one machine and trying to figure out what is the production with one machine and it's fixed, we can now be having more than one machine. We can have 1, 0, 2, 5. It's all variable. So now we can change that. So because all the factors are variable, the long run production function is going to show you the most efficient way of producing any level of output. So both of these things can change. We can figure out where do we have the cheaper cost. So the long run is going to be the period where everything is variable. And what happens here is now you can look at all the short run average variable cost at different times. So we already talked about how we have the average total cost, right? The ATC. That was with the short run, where we had one fixed variable. But now what you can do is, what if you had 2 machines, 3 machines, 4 machines? What if you had 1 building, 2 buildings, larger building, smaller building, right? You can look at all these different options in the long run at the same time. You can look at a short run here, short run here, and a short run here. And you could look at all those at the same time because you have the different information to be able to do that. You can look at and say like, well, if we had 1 machine, our cost would be 10. If we had 2 machines, our cost would be 5. If we had 3 machines, our cost would be 30, right? So like you're able to kind of look at an analysis on what you can do in the future. Okay? And so by doing this, you can figure out if you have a thing called economies of scale. So economies of scale is going to be where the bigger you are, the cheaper it is to make something. Okay, so basically, if your quantity is going up, the cost per unit is going down. It's actually cheaper to make something. So imagine Amazon, right? They're so big, they're able to make a lot of things at one time. They're doing them efficiently. So because they are, the bigger they are, they're able to make things a lot cheaper than if I were to make something. Okay? So that's economies of scale. And what that really looks like is this. As production is increasing, so as we're making more stuff, the cost of making it is decreasing. Look at this. We're going from S to L. You are increasing the quantity and you are decreasing the cost to get to L. Like, how do you get to L? You have to go down, right? You have to go higher quantity, lower cost. That is economies of scale. Larger production, lower average cost. And we can also look at that here. Okay. So again, we have the different short run curves that we can have at all levels of production. So this could be short run average cost 1 because you have 1 machine, 2 machines, 3 machines, 4 machines, and 5 machines. So we have all those options, and what we can do is we can look at all of them at the same time with the long run average cost. Okay? So what you're going to do for the long run average cost is you're going to look at the lowest possible average cost of production at all of these different short run average cost curves. Okay, so the short run average cost curve is going to be the average total cost curve in the short term, and it shows you those average fixed, average variable costs that we talked about. And in the long run, we're going to be able to look at the lowest possible ones at all different options. So the long run average cost curve, that's really what your business is trying to look at in terms of the future. So what we're having here, when we're starting off our business, right, in the short run, we have this one. So at this one, we have 1 machine. We're making production, we're doing really well, and we're like, you know what if we were to buy another machine, right? So we buy another machine, and all of a sudden, now we have the right amount of labor, we have 2 machines, we're working even more efficiently, so therefore, the cost is going down as we make more stuff. Okay, so because you buy a new machine, right, so you have a new fixed input, this is going to change the short run average cost curve. So we now have a new average cost curve with a new point. Okay, and as we can see here, because you increase the quantity, it's now cheaper to make something. Because it's cheaper to make it, that's called economies of scale. If we were to decide to do another machine, like now we want to hire some more labor and buy a third machine, we now are at short run average cost 3. Okay, and what's happening here is that you're not really decreasing the cost of making something, right? It's kind of like a straight line here. So at this point, right, what's happening is called a constant returns to scale. So basically, if you had 3 machines, right, your cost is $5. But if you were to have 4 machines, your cost is still $5. So even if you were to increase your production, your cost still stay the same. So imagine you're doubling the amount of machines you have, and this doubles your cost. Like you're the same. If you were to double your machines and then you quadruple your output, like you were to make 4 times as much because you doubled your inputs, that's going to be economies of scale. It's like you're getting better at the more stuff you put into it. But if it's a flat line right here, that's going to be constant returns to scale. But what about over here, where eventually we get to the point of that diminishing marginal returns, where if we put more into it, where it's actually going to be costing us more? So that's what's happening here when we go to the 4th to the 5th machine, where we have to change our average cost curve. It's actually being more expensive. So at this point, it's actually going to be more expensive to increase production. When this happens, this is called diseconomies of scale. So diseconomies of scale is where it's actually more expensive to make more. So again, here's a little summary of what we talked about. Anytime the quantity is increasing and the average cost is decreasing, economies of scale. Another name for that is increasing returns to scale. If we increase the quantity but the long run average cost curve stays the same, that's going to be constant returns to scale. If we have a situation where quantity is increasing and the long run average cost is increasing as well, that's going to be diseconomies of scale. Another name for that is decreasing returns to scale. So diseconomies of scale or decreasing returns to scale. Those are the same word. So that is what we're looking at when we're talking about production in the long run. You're basically looking at all of the short run average cost curves at one time. And so you as a business have to decide, where do we want to operate? Do we want to operate at the lowest long run average cost curve? Well, in order to do that, you got to get to that 3rd point there. So the long run is a great thing to look at when you're trying to figure out, what size building do we need? How many machines do we need? So it's very useful information for sure. So in the next chapter, we'll cover perfect competition in chapter 8. I'll see you there. Bye.